Hi everyone, I'm really glad you're here today. The fact that you decided to sit with this topic says a lot about your courage and your readiness to understand yourself on a deeper level. Today we're exploring something that quietly shapes so many lives beneath the surface, something that can dictate how you see the world, how you react to it, and even how safe or unsafe you feel inside your own body. We're talking about the experience of living with trauma in an uncertain world, specifically how complex trauma trains your nervous system to interpret unpredictability not as a neutral part of life, but as a threat. And honestly, this is one of those topics people rarely talk about with the nuance it deserves. They'll say things like, just relax, or you're overreacting, or stop assuming the worst, expecting you to shift your internal state with willpower alone. But if you grew up in an environment where danger could appear at any moment, whether from a parent's mood, a partner's volatility, the emotional climate at home, or the instability of the people you depended on, your nervous system didn't just get stressed. It got shaped, wired, molded into a constant readiness to respond because unpredictability wasn't just uncomfortable, it was unsafe. And as you move through the world today, even though the dangers of the past aren't physically present anymore, your body still keeps responding as if they are. Not because you're weak, not because you're dramatic, but because your nervous system was trained to survive chaos, not to trust calm. Think back for a moment to what uncertainty meant in your early experiences. If you grew up with a parent who changed personalities without warning, or someone whose affection depended on their mood, or a caregiver who didn't show up consistently, that unpredictability wasn't just emotional noise. It was the blueprint your brain used to understand relationships. Maybe you learned that the vibe in the room mattered more than the words being said. Maybe you learned that you had to stay hyper-aware, scanning for tone changes, facial expressions, or subtle shifts in energy because those were your early warning signals. You learned the art of reading people not because you wanted to, but because you had to. Fast forward to adulthood, and unpredictability still hits you differently. A delayed text, someone's silence, a last-minute plan change, a moment of emotional distance from someone you care about. Your body reacts instantly, long before your mind has time to collect the facts. Suddenly, your chest tightens, your thoughts speed up, or you start rehearsing worst-case scenarios as if your life depends on preparing for the impact. Because once upon a time, it did. This isn't a flaw in you. It's a lived adaptation. When you've lived through chronic unpredictability, your nervous system learns to equate, "I don't know what's happening," with, "I'm in danger." And even though you logically understand that a late reply doesn't mean abandonment, or that someone else's bad mood isn't your fault, your body reacts as if it's reliving something familiar. This is what complex trauma does. It doesn't necessarily come from a single catastrophic event. It comes from a long pattern of not knowing when the next emotional blow might land. And because of that, predictability becomes a form of safety. Routine becomes comfort. Consistency becomes nourishment. Knowing what to expect helps your body relax enough to exist without scanning the horizon for threat signals. But here's the catch. The world is naturally unpredictable. Relationships are naturally unpredictable. Life is naturally unpredictable. So the very thing your nervous system craves, certainty, is the one thing life will never permanently give. This is where the internal conflict begins. On the outside, you might look like someone who's functioning. You work, you love, you care for others, you solve problems. But inside, you're navigating a whole landscape shaped by survival instincts that never got the chance to update themselves. And sometimes you don't even realize that the symptoms you deal with, overthinking, emotional flashbacks, sudden waves of anxiety, or the need to fix situations quickly, aren't personality traits. They're survival mechanisms. Some people respond to uncertainty by shutting down. They go numb, detach, or lose interest because their system learned that emotional investment equals emotional risk. Others respond by trying to control everything: conversations, outcomes, schedules, relationships, anything that reduces the unknown, even temporarily. And others become chronic peacemakers, smoothing over tension, anticipating needs, and keeping the peace because conflict once felt dangerous. No matter which way you adapted, all of these patterns have one root: Unpredictability trained your body to brace itself. But here's something important, and I want you to really take this in. You're not broken for being this way. Your system responded in the way it needed to survive the world it was in. And that means with the right understanding, with the right tools, with the right support, your system can also learn a new way of living. Healing from complex trauma isn't just about talking through memories. It's about retraining your nervous system to feel safe in situations that aren't actually dangerous. It's about helping your body slowly learn the difference between discomfort and threat. It's about learning how to stay in yourself when the future feels unclear. And healing doesn't happen by forcing yourself into uncertainty either. It happens with gentle exposure, compassionate awareness, and repeated experiences that prove to your body, again and again, that unpredictability today is not the same as danger back then. Sometimes the healing starts very small, allowing yourself to not respond immediately to a text, letting someone else take the lead in a conversation, sitting with a feeling without rushing to solve it, giving yourself permission to pause instead of immediately reacting. These small moments teach your system something powerful. You don't need to prepare for impact all the time. The more you build these experiences, the more your system adapts. You begin to notice silence doesn't always equal withdrawal. A delayed response isn't abandonment. Someone else's mood isn't a prediction of what they'll do to you. A disagreement isn't a sign that the relationship is collapsing. And unpredictability isn't automatically danger. This doesn't mean the anxiety disappears overnight. But little by little, you'll feel your system start to loosen, soften, and expand. You'll recognize the moments when your reaction is old wiring instead of present reality. And that awareness shifts everything. Healing becomes less about fixing yourself and more about understanding yourself. Less about controlling your environment and more about supporting your nervous system. Because you're not healing just to become calm. You're healing to reclaim your power, to move through the world with more freedom, to trust yourself, to trust your experiences, and eventually, to trust that not every unknown is a threat waiting to happen. You deserve that freedom. You deserve a life that doesn't feel like a constant forecast of possible storms. You deserve relationships that don't feel like walking on alert. You deserve to experience uncertainty not as a warning, but as a natural part of being alive. And the fact that you're here, listening, learning, exploring, and allowing yourself to understand these patterns, that's already part of your healing. It means something inside you is ready to shift, ready to grow, ready to stop carrying the patterns that were never your fault in the first place. You're doing the work, you're here, and you're already moving forward, even if you don't see it yet. As you move deeper into understanding how trauma shapes your relationship with uncertainty, something else begins to reveal itself. Something subtle, but incredibly powerful. There's a shift happening inside you, even if you can't always feel it. Because once you start recognizing how your past trained your nervous system, you also begin noticing the ways it still influences your present. The way you brace for emotional impact. The way silence feels heavier than it should. The way your mind leaps ahead to predict outcomes before they even exist. This is where healing gets both challenging and transformative. It's not just about identifying the old patterns, it's about realizing how often those patterns show up disguised as instincts, preferences, or even personality traits. Maybe you've said things like, "I hate surprises," or "I need everything planned," or "I like staying busy," without ever questioning why. But beneath those familiar habits might be a nervous system that equates unpredictability with danger and quiet moments with vulnerability. And even when you've built a life that is healthier than what you came from, the echoes of the past still find you. A calm moment can feel suspicious. A stable relationship can feel unreal. Kindness can make you tense. Peace can feel like the setup before something breaks. That confusion can be one of the most disorienting parts of healing. Wanting safety, craving stability, yet feeling uneasy when they finally show up. This tension becomes especially visible in relationships. When someone communicates clearly, shows up consistently, or treats you with gentleness, your body may not know how to relax into it. You might wonder if they're hiding something. You might second-guess their motives. You might analyze the smallest details, tone shifts, pauses, emojis, the timing of messages, because your system is scanning for what it learned to look for, the signs of emotional threat. Not because the present situation is unsafe, but because your nervous system hasn't updated its definition of safety yet. For many people with complex trauma, unpredictability once meant emotional pain. So the body learned to brace, anticipate, and stay vigilant. And even when the danger is long gone, those survival strategies continue to operate in the background, shaping your reactions without your permission. What makes this even more complicated is how trauma influences your relationship with control. When the world around you was unpredictable, control became a way to feel safe. Maybe it meant planning everything down to the smallest detail. Maybe it meant managing other people's emotions so their reactions didn't catch you off guard. Maybe it meant always staying one step ahead so you could avoid being blindsided. Control wasn't about power, it was about protection. But as healing progresses, you start noticing the weight of that constant vigilance. You begin realizing how exhausting it is to manage everything, how limiting it feels to always anticipate the worst, how lonely it becomes when you're always bracing for a threat that might never come. And gradually, you come face to face with one of the biggest challenges in recovery: learning how to live without tightly gripping everything around you. Letting go doesn't mean becoming passive or careless. It doesn't mean allowing chaos into your life. It means slowly teaching your nervous system that uncertainty doesn't automatically lead to harm. It means building a tolerance for moments where you don't have all the answers. It means allowing space for spontaneity, curiosity, and trust to grow in small, manageable ways. Sometimes the shift begins with noticing. Noticing the moment your chest tightens when someone doesn't respond right away. Noticing the way your stomach drops when plans change. Noticing how quickly your mind jumps to protect itself the second something feels unfamiliar. That awareness is not a small step. It's the opening to everything that follows. Because once you can recognize a trauma response as it's happening, you can begin choosing what to do with it. Maybe you pause. Maybe you breathe. Maybe you ground yourself by naming what's real in the moment. Maybe you remind yourself softly, "This feels familiar, but it's not the same." Those small interruptions break the automatic chain between trigger and reaction. They create space, space for choice, space for gentleness, space for healing. The next step often looks like building internal safety. Trauma teaches you to depend heavily on external cues for your sense of security. Other people's tone, behavior, mood, presence. Healing teaches you to build safety inside yourself so you're not constantly waiting for the world around you to stabilize. And that inner safety grows slowly through repeated experiences where your emotions rise without overwhelming you, where discomfort doesn't lead to catastrophe, where uncertainty doesn't collapse into danger. Over time, this creates a new kind of resilience, one rooted not in hypervigilance, but in self-trust. A sense that even if things are unclear, even if something unexpected happens, even if the future is unknown, you can navigate it without abandoning yourself. That's the shift that transforms the way you live. This journey also involves learning how to move differently in relationships. It means practicing voicing your needs instead of assuming they'll be rejected. It means allowing yourself to receive care without scanning for hidden motives. It means recognizing when your fear of abandonment is pulling you into assumptions that don't reflect the present reality. And it means allowing yourself to build connections that are secure, stable, and mutual. Not because you've forced yourself to trust, but because your body learns, through experience, that not everyone brings danger. One of the most encouraging things about this process is how the nervous system adapts. It may have been shaped by fear and unpredictability, but it is also capable of learning safety, calm, and connection. And it doesn't require perfection, it requires repetition. Each time you remain present in an uncertain moment without spiraling, each time you self-soothe instead of self-protect, each time you choose curiosity over fear, your nervous system rewires itself just a little more. Eventually, the shifts become noticeable. Uncertainty begins to feel less threatening. Silence stops feeling like abandonment. Calm moments stop making you uneasy. You stop reading danger into situations that are simply unfamiliar. You become more emotionally steady, less reactive, more grounded, more present. And instead of living in constant readiness for something to go wrong, you begin allowing more life, more joy, more possibility to take up space inside you. It's not a linear path. Some days will feel heavier, and old patterns may resurface. But even those moments are part of the healing. They're opportunities to practice responding differently, to reaffirm your safety, to remind your body that the past is not the present. And when you look back, weeks, months, or years from now, you'll notice how far you've come. You'll see how much more stable you feel, how much more trust you have in yourself, how much less power the unknown holds over you. You'll realize that healing didn't erase your past. It transformed the way your past lives inside you. The work you're doing matters. It's reshaping your life in ways you may not fully see yet. So keep going. Keep being gentle with yourself. Keep choosing awareness. Keep choosing compassion. Keep choosing growth, even when it feels uncomfortable. Because you're building a version of yourself that doesn't just survive uncertainty. You navigate it with clarity, strength, and inner stability. If this spoke to you, if it brought you clarity, comfort, or even just a sense of being understood, you're welcome to stay connected. There's so much more we can explore about trauma recovery, emotional resilience, and reclaiming your sense of safety in a world that doesn't always feel predictable. Your healing deserves support, and you don't have to walk this journey alone. You're doing incredibly deep work, brave work, and it's leading you toward a life that feels calmer, clearer, and genuinely yours. Keep going. You're already becoming the person you once thought you could never be.